Thank you very much, Stephen. We start here this evening. The role of the banking sector in enabling the African Continental Free Trade Area has been highlighted at the AfCFTA's Business Forum in Cape Town. Our business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo caught up with Standard Bank CEO Tshabalala about the importance of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and what it means for the population on the continent.
Well, delegates at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Business Forum taking place in Cape Town focused on the role that the banking sector actually plays in amplifying intra-Africa trade. And to give us a little bit more on that role and responsibilities really is the Group CEO at Standard Bank, Tshabalala. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now, Standard Bank Group is a well-established bank on the continent. Talk to us about how the implementation of the free trade area, what difference it would make on the continent and the role that institutions such as banks, such as your own, play in driving that.
Ntokozo, thank you very much. It's such a privilege and it's always wonderful to talk to you. The African Continental Free Trade Area is going to be the largest in the world. And as Africans, we should be proud of that. It's going to be the largest of its kind in the world, firstly. It's going to cover 1.3 billion people. 1.3 billion. GDP of $3.4 trillion, covering 55 countries. I mean, this is unbelievable. The magnitude of the investment opportunity and therefore business opportunity is hard to even calculate if you project forward about what is possible. Some of the impediments and some of the things that the leadership are focused on and that we are hoping they're going to implement and execute so that we can benefit as financial institutions and as business are firstly dealing with tariff barriers, but actually tariff barriers are not the largest problem. The largest ones are non-tariff barriers, and there is a huge focus on these by the AfCFTA Secretariat. How do you make sure that trucks moving food and goods between countries can move more quickly? Making sure that the laws and regulations that govern that are properly drawn up, and then making sure that there are no inappropriate payments, bribes, facilitation payments happening. And this is a big challenge and is receiving great focus. Let me just add in that context also that a big thing is making sure that it's easy to move people between countries and jurisdictions. That is so important. So that just as it's important to move goods, it's also important to be able to move people, so that visas make it easy for you to move between them.
And once the free trade area agreement is actually implemented, how do you see that changing the face of the continent, obviously with people and goods and services moving a lot easier on the continent? How do you see that changing the continent?
I think there's a real live example. It's East Africa. The countries of Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. They're operating as an integrated union. It's easy to move goods. Trucks move between borders very easily. It's easy to move people. If we want to hire a person in Uganda and move them from Kenya, easiest thing to do. It's easy to move capital. It's easy to move data. Imagine that on a continental scale. It will reduce the cost of producing goods. It will reduce the cost of moving those goods, and it will therefore reduce the cost of you and I buying goods on the continent. Very exciting.
So it is exciting times, and I suppose that a lot of Africans are looking forward to that implementation. Thank you so much for making time for us this afternoon. Of course, that was Tshabalala, who is the Group CEO at Standard Bank, just talking us through the role of banks in really driving the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, but also how he sees the continent being reshaped once we actually see that implementation using, of course, the East African region as an example. Of course, the East Africa community, they are having that ease of movement of people, goods, and services. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Cape Town.